So good afternoon, happy Friday. This is Audrey Russo, President and CEO of the Pittsburgh Technology Council. Welcome to Business as Usual. We have a great guest here on this beautiful Friday. And before I introduce him, I just want to first give a shout out that I have Jonathan Kirsting here with me. He is the Vice President of Visibility and all things media at the Tech Council. So just a couple of things. First of all, as you can see, our sponsors, Huntington Bank and AT&T, they've been with us right from the beginning of this journey. I believe today is day number 40. Is today day number 40? I believe so, that we've been doing this each and every day. Huntington Bank, they are the largest SBA lenders in the region, and they have been very, very active with making sure that people get what they need through the incentives. And all along, they are a small business administration lender here in Southwestern Pennsylvania. They're number one. Also, thanks to AT&T for their continued sponsorship and support and the work that they've done to make sure that people have access in our region during this COVID-19. And it ranges from technology all the way to food. So thank you to both of them for sponsoring and believing in the Tech Council. Just a great lineup for next week. Just to remind you, Monday we have Steve Malnight. He's the president and CEO of Duquesne Light. Tuesday we have Karen Feinstein, president and CEO of Jewish Healthcare Foundation. And we're very passionate about the work that's been going on in supporting our most vulnerable population and the elderly. She will join us for that. Wednesday we have state reps, Josh Kale from Beaver County, Ann Myers, executive director at PA Coalition of Public Charter Schools, and Dr. Maurice Fleury, CEO of Commonwealth Charter Academy. Very timely when you consider what's happening in schools today. Thursday, we have Meredith Meyer-Grelly, the co-founder of Wiggle Whiskey, and she has certainly been around for a while doing some really interesting things. And then Friday, we have our longtime friend, Mike Moe, founder and CEO of Global Silicon Valley. He'll be joining us from the West Coast. So you can see we're busy. And then just as a reminder that the following week, we're hosting the Global CIO of Zoom, as well as the chairman and CEO of Essential, which recently acquired People's Gas. So we are here trying to knit the community together and make sure that you have access and information to all things that are happening around us. So just a couple of things as a reminder. We are also, today we have a thanks to Innovation Works. Rich Lunak will be on in one moment, but they are actually offering flexible, they're mini camps, and I believe that there's a link. And we've had a lot of great success with parents who are home with young children, and you want to pay attention to this show and of course other things. Try this. So thank you, Innovation Works, for supporting them and their work as one of our startups across the community, and many that you do. So we've muted your microphone, so everything, we can't really hear anything in your background, and we've done that on purpose. So we also want this to be interactive, so there is a chat function. Just use that chat function for just saying what company you're with and the questions that you have, and we will try to get to those questions to make this interactive with Rich. We do not do anything related to sales or advertising. That's not what this is about. So I'm going to jump in. I want to introduce the president and CEO of Innovation Works. This is Rich Lunak. He's also on the board of directors of the Tech Council. He's been on the board for a long time and very active in the startup community. Welcome, Rich, and thrilled that you made time for us today. And as we introduce you and we start to get into some questions, tell us about Innovation Works. I mean, there might be a lot of people on this call who actually don't know all the tentacles that you have.
Well, thank you, Audrey. And let me start out by thanking you for being such a great partner to Innovation Works over the years. And secondly, for business as usual, I think it's really helped keep the community together, show how vibrant Pittsburgh's tech community, and get out a lot of essential information during this critical time. So Innovation Works is a regional nonprofit that focuses on helping regional tech entrepreneurs and startups succeed. And we do that a variety of ways by providing early stage risk capital, business assistance, and access to critical networks, whether that's investor networks, customer and partner networks, mentors, advisors, and a and a host of things. And a lot of people may not be familiar, but we also run two world-class and nationally ranked accelerator programs, Alpha Lab and Alpha Lab Gear. And a few years ago, we also launched a venture fund called Riverfront Ventures that's exclusively focused on companies here in Southwestern PA and whose portfolio is 100% Southwest PA companies.
That's awesome. I know that you do a lot. And how long has InnovationWorks been around?
So we're part of the Ben Franklin Technology Partners Program, and that's a program that traces its roots, much like the Tech Council, to the early 1980s and has been an important fabric here in Southwest PA. In fact, a lot of our largest tech employers today trace a lot of their roots to early investment and support from the InnovationWorks programs. In fact, I was an entrepreneur that benefited from that program years ago as well.
So let's start with what has been the impact of COVID-19 on the region's startup community? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? How are you supporting?
Yeah, as you know, this is an incredibly trying time for really everybody, every business and everybody in our society, but I think especially so for startups. You know, startups are sort of like the double black diamond of business, right? You're trying to innovate in a disruptive new technology, get it off the ground, raise financing, build your teams. And startups by their very nature are sort of fragile. And you layer on the economic uncertainty and the healthcare crisis, and it makes it that much tougher, right? These are companies that are often pre-revenue, not yet profitable, not cash flow positive. And so in this environment, it's been extremely difficult and tragic in a way, because these are the innovators that I think we're relying on to release the next innovations that are going to help us through the healthcare crisis. They're going to help get our economy recovered, right? Small businesses always lead the economy out of a recession, and most jobs come from startups, companies less than 5 years old. So the kinds of things that we've seen, Audrey, is, impacts on their customers and revenues drying up, difficulty raising capital. I can't tell you how many companies we've seen where investors that may have signed investment agreements or agreed or committed to a fundraising have backed out as their own portfolios have been impacted by the recession and market decline, impacts to supply chains, disruptions to their work, and and the lockdown, and a host of other things. So I can tell you the InnovationWorks team has been 100% focused on helping companies through this any way we can since the pandemic broke. And now, in fact, let me give you a quick plug. All is not dire. If you look back to the last recession, we had a lot of great Pittsburgh area startups start during that time and survive. And we have on May 28th at our Cafe IW event, 3 entrepreneurs that launched their businesses then to sort of hopefully give a boost in the arm of our regional startups. And there'll be Don Charlton from Jazz HR, Susan Catalano from Cognition Therapeutics, and Sarjun Scaff from Bossa Nova to hopefully offer some inspiration.
That's great. That's a great lineup. So InnovationWorks recently announced a COVID resiliency fund to help the regional startups in their portfolio. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I'd love to, because we're extremely excited about it. And let me first start off by telling our listeners something about InnovationWorks and about the Tech Council that they may not always know. The startup community unlike large companies, don't have advocates for them oftentimes in government, right? They don't have government affairs and lobbyists and people that can really talk about their needs. And so, I think much like the Tech Council, InnovationWorks played a really active role as the CARES Act was being considered in Washington, D.C., and also as the state was looking for relief programs. And in particular, when the state launched their small business loan program, it's candidly a great program, but probably marries itself and is best positioned for established small businesses, think Main Street businesses. And so groups like InnovationWorks and the venture community and others provided feedback to the administration about why that program really didn't work well for our tech startups. And while we thought it was a great program, we want to make sure that it's inclusive of all small businesses. And I have to hand it to the Wolf administration and Secretary Davin and others. They responded relatively quickly. And what they did is they announced 3 new programs, one which is the investment program I'm going to talk about. And that program committed $4 million, $1 million each to each of the Ben Franklin centers across the state, and asked us to find a matching $1 million to create, in this case, a $2 million regional fund. And so InnovationWorks matched that $1 million commitment from the state with money from InnovationWorks and also with some support from the R.K. Mellon Foundation. And we're going to use those funds to help support regional startups with a focus on portfolio companies that have already received state investment from economic development organizations like InnovationWorks. But I have to tell you, thanks to that funding, we're not only going to be able to support our existing portfolio, but candidly, we were probably looking at having to stop making new investments because we just didn't have the resources to continue to do that, and with the need to support our portfolio. But with this funding, we are also actively taking companies. We recently selected the new incoming class of Alpha Lab beer. We've got a cycle open for Alpha Lab and making new portfolio investments. So, and the last thing I'll say is, we've really streamlined the process for this money. We've already accepted companies. We or committed to investments. We can get it out on the street very quickly and intend to, and couldn't be more thankful to the state to help us really support so many regionally, important and critical companies.
Okay, that's great. The InnovationWorks has always invested in many breakthrough technologies across almost every market sector. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the regional startups that are developing solutions to the COVID-19 pandemic, have made a pivot, or have added value in that arena?
Yeah, I would love to. In fact, this is probably one of the funnest things about working at a place like IW. We work with so many outstanding innovators, and I'm happy to say so many of them are playing a critical role at this time, helping our nation and world recover from the COVID-19 crisis. So a few quick examples. We have a company here locally, CytoAgents, that is developing a therapeutic for influenza and COVID-19. And they just announced an important partnership with a New England drug development company, Quotient Sciences, to take that COVID-19 drug through clinical trials. And the NIH thought their technology was so important, they just recently, a few days ago, announced a $1.6 million NIH grant to CytoAgents to develop that therapeutic. We have a company that's represented on the board of the Tech Council, ALUNG, which really makes a critical technology for anybody with a respiratory infection or illness. Their HemoLung product you can think of it as a next generation product to replace a mechanical ventilator. So it basically takes blood out of the body, removes CO2 and adds oxygen, and can supplement the breathing function for a patient with all the downside effects of having intubation and mechanical ventilation. And again, that was seen as such an important technology at this time that the FDA approved them for emergency use authorization. So their product, sort of pre-FDA approval, was seen so important that it's being used in hospitals across the country to save patients. One that I'm really excited about is health monitoring systems. This company has technology in more than 600 US hospitals, and they are really the largest provider of public data to the CDC about the COVID-19 crisis and infection. So they are providing real-time data about the spread of COVID-19, as well as how many ICU beds are open or full in a hospital, how many mechanical ventilators are currently being used in really critical data, and then a host of others. So for example, there's PPE Connect, some entrepreneurs that launched an online marketplace to connect innovators and manufacturers to people that need PPE Connect. Companies like Nola Pelli and American Textile Corporation that are making masks, Thread making face shields, and just tons of inspirational stories like that. So I can't mention them all, but just showing what Pittsburgh innovation and entrepreneurship is all about.
Those are great examples. We actually had Andy Walsh twice on our radio show. He's from Health Monitoring Systems, who's a PhD in virology. He's our go-to person. So on all things related to COVID. So Rich, we have a couple of questions that I want Jonathan to jump in and ask. So we let some interaction occur, but Brian needs to unmute him because we were on clampdown. So it looks like I'm going to ask you the question. So you can see Jonathan's face, he's here. But
Brian's got the power, huh?
So here's the deal. Rich, this is from a gentleman by the name of Joseph Connell. Rich, we have two Pittsburgh startups. One of these is a BFTP portfolio company through Philly. Our emphasis is in Pittsburgh, where we are now concentrating our efforts. How do we get a chance to work with you?
Really simple. Just reach out through our website, and either through our accelerator programs or InnovationWorks, and it's very easy to apply or send us an email at info@innovationworks.org, and we're happy to get you connected. We also have open office hours that have continued even through the pandemic. So you can also schedule appointments to talk with one of our staff members there. So we'd love to connect with you and see how we can help you out.
We've put that on our chat as well, so people can see it. Also, this is from Chip Doherty, and he's saying, can you explain InnovationWorks' current efforts to add new life sciences startups to your portfolio?
Yeah, our region is blessed with a lot of riches in the life sciences, and companies like Cytoagents, Along, and Health Monitoring Systems as examples. And so historically, probably around 35% or more of our portfolio, over a third, has been to life science oriented companies. We are constantly looking at ways to grow and evolve that program through investment and assistance. And if you keep an eye out on things, I think later this month or in early June, we're probably going to have an exciting announcement in that area. How's that for a teaser, Chip?
It is. It's a good announcement too.
But we're really excited to work with regional life science companies, and think they're absolutely critical to everything we do here in the region.
So do I. I think that's the next iteration for Pittsburgh. So something sort of hopeful and future looking. IW supports tech entrepreneurs at the earliest stages, just when they're very often just one person with an idea, very nascent. And over the past several years, this has included teaching teens what it's like to be an entrepreneur, work in a startup, get access to the startup community, gain maker skills, learn to market a product. The program for teens, I believe, is called Startable. And this year, it's a virtual program teaching CAD drawing skills and more online. So can you talk about that program and that focus?
Yeah, I'd love to. This is a program now in its sixth year, and it started the first year with a really small pilot of a handful of students. But really the idea behind it, Audrey, is to provide opportunities to develop the next generation entrepreneurs and technologists. And we focus this program on teens this year, 13 to 18 years old in our communities. And these are kids largely from underserved communities that in many ways may not have grown up with a technologist or entrepreneur role model in their life. And as you know, a lot of times, people don't have aspirations that, gee, one day I can own and operate my own business or, be a world-class scientist or engineer unless they get that early exposure. And so what we do is we take kids through the process of what it's like to be an entrepreneur. They envision a product or a business idea. These are usually retail-oriented products. They develop business plans and even pitches on these products. They form teams around them, actually design, develop them, and actually launch those businesses and market them through commercial partners. This year, the product is running virtually, and candidly is probably more important than it's ever been, because I think it's going to be a lifeline for a lot of these kids that may not have a chance to get out and be as active as they have been. And so what we're doing is focusing it around, where they might go in a maker lab in the past and build their products. They're going to be focused on learning 2D and 3D CAD tools and software, and building their products. And it'll culminate with, a final event where they'll get cash prizes. I want to tell you that diversity and reaching out to everybody in the community has been really important to us. And one of the ways we've reached out is actually to bring this program to Greene County this year as well. So with the support of Equitrans and EQT, we have a chance to bring it to kids in our outlying counties as well this year.
Wow.
I have a quick question for you.
Yeah, there's a question. Go on, Jonathan.
Yeah, I was just curious. The Hardware Cup is coming up next week, which we're all excited about. Of course, it's going to be virtual, which is like, oh my God, but I'm sure it's going to be just as awesome virtual. What's going to be happening for the next class of Alpha Lab and Alpha Lab gear? It's like, they got to be together, but they can't probably be together as they would normally be. Do you have plans in place for that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we do. I will tell you, we were prepared to run those programs virtually if needed, but it looks like with the lessening of the lockdown and the back to work environment, we are hopeful we can reopen Alpha Lab and Alpha Lab gear. In fact, we have current plans to do that. And make the space available to the companies. And, we're going to continue to work with them on sort of the lean startup methodology and doing those, finding that early product market fit through iterations of their product by working with their customers and channels. And we think our labs are going to be open. Obviously, we're going to have to have a lot of new sort of rules, if you will, on operating in that space. And it's probably going to be a little while before we're able to have, the in-person events that we had been having. But I want you to know IW is still having a lot of those activities online. So for example, the Hardware Cup will be next Tuesday. And we have companies from around the world that are competing in that. So you'll be able to see not only regional companies, but companies across the US, Japan, South Korea, and all over the globe. And then Wednesday, although it's for accredited investors, we have also the AI and Robotics Venture Fair with CMU with over 300 registered investors to see local tech companies pitch for investment.
So there's another question out there from Craig.
Yeah, Craig Waller, our man on the scene, he wants to know what concerns IW most about its portfolio companies that's prioritized for investing new COVID funds.
Yeah, you know, I would say making sure that there is a viable plan to bridge to the other side of this crisis and pandemic. You know, I think you know, much like the recession that hit in 2008, I think it's going to be with us for a while, and it's going to be a tough environment that's going to impact not only revenue and customer channels and supply chains, but also the fundraising environment. So we really want to work hard with companies, not only to provide the investment and support that can help them now, but really, you know, a viable plan that can keep them afloat and really get to the other side of the crisis. So, and that may include things like what kind of things they can do to expense reduction, how can they access PPP funds, can they use our money to catalyze investment from other investors or existing investors in the company, what creative things can they do to keep their teams together and through this environment and much more. So I would say that's, you know, that's probably the thing that we're working hardest on. And, you know, it involves a lot of tough decisions, but I, you know, as you know, the entrepreneurial spirit and tenacity is, you know, unlike anything else. And these companies will be able to do it. And we want to be there to help them through it.
Listen, we've had a good couple of weeks in Pittsburgh in terms of like activity. So I want to end on, you know, the bullishness that I have for Pittsburgh. I mean, you know, Niche got 35 million in a Series C.
Yes.
NetHealth just did an acquisition. You know, Zoom has announced that they're going to be opening up offices. We have a virtual career fair on May 27th, where there are so many companies that are actually hiring. So, you know, I would just add that we have a lot of plates spinning here. And I do know that capital remains to be a problem, but we still have incredible growth that's going on. Now, the bifurcation of our community, I applaud that you are doing work to try to make sure that that bifurcation is, you know, eradicated. It will take all of us.
Yeah.
So our time is ended. And I cannot thank you enough for taking the time with us. I want you to be safe, and we will tune into the Hardware Cup. And I know that we're putting links out. We'll make sure that everyone has links so that they can access the services and the work that you're doing. And for everyone else, thank you for joining. Thank you for paying attention. Jonathan, did you have one other thing to add?
One very pertinent question, Rich. I'm on the quest for t-shirts here, man. I'm proposing a t-shirt swap. A couple Pittsburgh Technology Council t-shirts for a couple rad Alpha Lab Gear t-shirts. Just saying.
You got it. You got it. We would love to do that. Now, would you prefer gear or the Alpha Lab original, sort of like Coke original?
I'm kind of going OG. I want original, man, from back in the day.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you all. Stay tuned. We told you we have a great lineup. Thank you so much, Rich, for spending time with us today.
Audrey.
Stay safe and have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.